Welcome. We're going to talk about cooking systems and a little bit of water filtration. The timing's perfect because in a week from today, I'm going to be driving to Ely, Minnesota and planning my entry point into the Boundary Waters. We're going to go to entry point 16. We're going to go up through Lake Agnes and Oyster, camp there for a bit, make a Lac LaCroix loop, and then maybe decide what we want to do, maybe pop over to Iron. In all, we're planning on traveling about 40 miles, and we're going to portage about 7 of those. So weight is certainly a factor. Now, I'm going to talk about cooking systems because I have to decide what I'm going to take and just, my annual inventory, making sure everything's working and kind of clean. And also, I'm going to talk about water filtration because most of the time, we're trying to reconstitute some dehydrated stuff, and we have to get clean drinking water. So of these 4 systems, last year, I took this large Coleman 2-burner stove. Now these have been around forever. There's nothing new to them. They're big, they're bulky, and they're actually quite heavy. Now, of course, they're going to use your standard propane tanks. Now, the reason we took it last year was because the Boundary Waters was closed when we tried to go. All the fires from Canada shut down everything except entry point number 1, which was Lake Trout off of Vermilion. So I got a video about that whole trip, and you'll see in that video this stove really kicking butt. We cooked eggs and pancakes and fried fish every single night. It was a fantastic stove to use. It was luxurious, in my opinion, for Boundary Waters canoe camping. When we go out west, we also take this as well because, we don't really care about weight and we don't care about bulk. But it's big and it's heavy, so from a backpacking standpoint, it's not really a very useful stove. Canoe camping, you can get away with it as long as you're willing to either double portage or minimize the amount of portaging that you do. Now, my first backpacking stove was this, the Solo stove. What I like about Solo stoves is that they don't require any of these exotic fuels. Now, I say exotic because these are great when stores are open, but when stores aren't open, suddenly you need to cook something. This was my first kind of bug-out stove. So when I started building all my camping stuff, I started with this because I wanted something that didn't require any sort of fuels. Essentially, I just pick up stuff on the ground, twigs and pine cones, whatever I want, and I can boil water in about 2 to 3 minutes. Now, of course, the other nice thing about it is it's ultra compact and everything fits inside this little pot. And it's also pretty lightweight. This is lighter, but we'll get to that. So I like the Solo stove a lot. The one downside that I had that was 2019, and the video that you can find also, then we went to Lower Basswood Falls, is it rained the whole day on the way up, and it rained for the first couple days. Everything was wet. I couldn't get any dry material. This thing was just basically dead weight. Did not use it once. Instead, what we relied on were these little propane stove toppers. This is at Walmart for like $15 or something like that. And MSR and some other companies make versions that are probably a lot better. But they're all essentially the same. They have a little bit of valve and maybe an igniter. This one does. And essentially, you just clip your propane tank into your base and use your pots and pans. You're off and running. We'll be taking this because our forecast is half rain, half sun. So if everything is going to be wet, unfortunately, I can't use this. I would take this if I saw a week of dry and maybe 1 or 2 spotty days of rain. Then when I got to camp, I'd gather up a bunch of dry stuff, kind of keep it dry. And then I'd probably use this because you have unlimited cooking. It's lightweight. It's lighter than one of these. And I don't have to worry about fuel running out. When I do take a fuel-based stove, obviously I go N+1. I take one tank that's going to last me all week and a second tank just in case this thing could develop a bad seal. Or maybe we do actually eat enough that we burn through one. So when I plan for this, I do plan for the bulk of 2 tanks. Now for all of my reconstitution, dehydrated meals, my oatmeals, my instant mashed potatoes, obviously, the dehydrated stuff, meal shakes, whatever it is, I need water and I need a decent amount of it. So when I boil water, obviously I rely on a jet boil. This thing is fantastic. Super ultra light. There's just nothing lighter than this as far as the whole system is concerned. And there is the flexibility to cook with pots, but honestly, I never have. I don't because I actually try to keep this system super clean. Low odor, I'm only boiling water in it. And I do that because if I want to actually keep this thing inside my tent, or if I'm going to go on a day trip, I'll just grab this and maybe a couple meals, and I can, leave and come back. I like to keep this system perfectly clean. I've seen people cook stuff in the pot, and yeah, sure, you can do that. Then you got to take it all apart and clean it, and inevitably there's odors there, so now you can never keep it in your pack. So that's why I like keeping this clean. Use this for water only. Use one of these for cooking actual meals. Now, we fried fish every single night on this, and we'll be frying fish on this as well. Now, obviously, from an implement standpoint, the collapsible bowls and plates are fine. One pot that we can fry fish in is pretty much all you need, and then some plastic silverware or something titanium. This is essentially minus these two, and this is my cooking system. I have a lovely assistant back there who's just trying to be awkward. Now, when it comes to water, that has evolved every single year. I started with this First Need XO Elite, and essentially it just screws on to an Nalgene bottle. See some photos of me actually using it in the wild. It works really great. It's supposed to pump about 1 liter a minute, and it moves pretty quick, but you're working the entire time. We found that having a bucket, a collapsible bucket to scoop water up, bring it on land, and then filter that was so much nicer than trying to balance on the slippery rocks. And then also you can get your bucket of water up to shore, let it rest, and let any sediment settle. Your pre-filter and your filter lasts a lot longer. Now, I have another pump filter as a backup, and obviously a standard Sawyer Mini as my daily. But last year we found excellent results using a gravity system and a collapsible container. So this collapsible container is 2 gallons. It's not very expensive. This is a little pricier at $50. I've seen some other ones that are a little bit more, but honestly, these things were rock stars. They did a fantastic job. So we run 2 of these and 1 or 2 of these. We had a 5-gallon last year. This year I got myself a 2-gallon because I don't need the extra bulk of 5. So a gravity system into here as our drinking and cooking water. We filter everything. It's just because I'm going to boil it doesn't mean I'm not going to filter it. Just being safe. If we're going to be gone and we're going to be that far remote, the last thing we want is to, have some intestinal problems. So that's it. My stove system, obviously water, food and water, food and whatever you want because it's awesome, but it's also huge and bulky. And then I like this. I'm not going to bring this time. It is a little heavier. Instead, I'm going to go this route and something personal and leave these other kind of hand pump filters at home. So I'm curious if there's any questions you have, or what do you use? Have you found pros and cons that I didn't mention about these systems? There is the alcohol stove that you can get to go with the solo stove. So if you did want to have a liquid fuel backup, a little bit of isopropyl alcohol in here, in theory, you could cook on this. And there are some littler camp stoves that essentially do just that. And there's some other small kind of creative camp stoves. By all means, this is not an exhaustive review of all camp stoves. Plenty of those on the internet already. But since I'm planning a pack anyway and I'm loading everything up, I figured now's a good time to just kind of share my thoughts and my experiences and what I think I'm going to be doing. From a food standpoint, obviously dehydrated stuff. Hopefully we don't need to eat it because we're going to be cooking fish every night. That's why we're bringing fishing stuff. Roasted mashed potatoes, fantastic. Cannot go wrong. A variety of meal replacement shakes. I'll vary these. I plan on a lunch being a meal shake, but then I have to have a container and a blender and I have to clean it. So it's a little bit of a hassle. These tuna creations are fantastic. This is the only non-dehydrated thing that I bring, but just the other fats and the oils just really kind of help. I love these in the canoe as a snack. Just have a fork and have one of these packs on me. It's delicious. Of course, oatmeal and dehydrated vegetables or fruits. This is awesome. I still have to get some dehydrated veggies and put in here so I can cook like beans and peas. Just kind of your mixed veggies to keep vitamins up. And then you can never go wrong, of course, with your kind bars for breakfast. We will be doing shore lunches, as in shore lunch, for fish fries. We'll have some other stuff as well. And then I use small Nalgene bottles for a little bit of vegetable oil to put in the pan. And that's kind of where I'm sitting. I know a lot of people will bring a little bit of ramen. It's kind of lightweight. It is easy when you're out burning and you're sweating and you're moving. Some of that, salt replacement's fine, but a lot of sodium in this, a lot of sodium in this, a lot of sodium in a decent amount of these things. is something you have to be careful with. If you're hypersensitive to sodium, stay away from all these and try to find an alternative that maybe is a little bit healthier. This is another manufacturer, but even still, other than Mountain House, it's supposed to be a little bit healthier, but at the same time, still a ton of sodium. Now, when they say that these are 240 calories per serving and 2 servings per bag, our experience is you're pretty much eating a whole one of those by yourself. These Pro Packs, you could argue, would actually be justifiable for 2 people to share. So we got a group of 6 going, and we're going to be planning out. They have some other stoves of their own, and obviously they have their own food. This is about 10.5 pounds packed up for myself, and we're going to have a good time. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions or if you have any comments. Thanks for watching. And I have my lovely assistant here to pretty much do nothing useful. We did so because there was a fire ban, and you're an idiot. Hey, stop it. This is not the show for you.